Hey there, MRA, my Real Africanist. This is your girl, Marie Ya Jouf, the Real Africanist, and welcome to my channel. If you have been here before, thank you for coming back. And if this is your first time here, I appreciate you watching. On this channel, I talk about African history, the field of African studies, and current African affairs, right? I like to say that I talk about Africa for real, because I tell the African story from an African perspective, and I do the work and the research to make sure that I am bringing you the facts as they have been presented to me, right? So I just wanted to hop on here right quick, right, and talk about something that was on my mind. So yesterday I was scrolling the net, right, and I came across a video on the channel Tunachiki. And on Tunachiki's channel, he featured a video about a development, I guess a head of development in Finland, right? And this gentleman said that Finland would no longer be sending development funds to Africa, right? That they would be suspending those funds, millions of dollars of funding to African nations who are supporting Russia, right? Now, I was a little upset about that, and not because Finland is suspending these development funds. Actually, I am really okay with that. I am actually ecstatic about that. I'm happy about that, right? Because maybe African leaders will get it through their heads that they need to count on nobody but themselves, right? However, you know what made me upset is because the arrogance in which it was said, right? You know, and how these European countries use this commitment of development aids and these different kind of aids that they send to the continent to manipulate and control the decisions that African leaders make for themselves, for their citizens, and for their countries, right? You know, with all of the resources, the natural resources and money that is taken out of the African continent by these European nations, they have the audacity to, you know, always try to, again, use this aid that they are giving African leaders as leverage, like I say, to control them. However, you know, I see that as the fault of African leaders, right? And, you know, I understand that it is challenging, right? Based upon the decades that they have been dependent on this aid, right? So it's like, even in your own life, right? If you have a source of income that's coming in, you kind of get dependent on it, right? And so if someone, say, threatens to take it away, right? Say if it's Social Security or, you know, whatever the case may be, right? If somebody threatens to take it away, then you try to do what you need to do in order to keep that income coming, right? Although it's yours in the first place because you paid into this system. However, they have these guidelines and stipulations that one has to follow in order to continue to receive this money, right? And they can literally snatch it from you at any time. You know, you may have grievances and grounds to get it back, but then you're going to have to pay out all kind of money just to get it back, right? However, with that said, you know, I don't know, again, when African leaders are going to get it through their thick head that this is how these people think about them, right? This is how they have always thought about them, and this is how they feel about them and us as people of African descent to this day, right? There was another video that I watched just a couple of days ago, and on that video, an advisor to President Zelensky of Ukraine, right? He was on this video saying that African leaders, the South African president Ramaphosa and about 3 or 4 other African presidents went to Ukraine, and I believe they went to Russia as well, but they went there to try to broker a peace agreement, right, between the two parties, right, or between the two nations. And so this guy had the audacity and the nerves to say that, to pose the question, what were these African leaders even doing in our country, right? In my country, he said they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the power, and they don't have the expertise to broker an agreement between Ukraine and Russia, right? That this is way out of their league, that this is way over their heads. Like I said, the audacity, of these folks. I don't know who they think they are, but basically he was saying, you're not good enough, right? You have some nerve to try to help broker an agreement between European people. You are not even in our league. And again, this is how these people have always thought about us, and this is how they still think about us. I remember some years ago when Ronald Reagan in the United States was the president, and that was way back in the 1990s. I was a young girl, and I remember they caught him on tape. Actually, this was before he became president, but they caught him on tape talking about African leaders, calling them monkeys, calling them savages, because they chose to cast a vote in opposition to the America's vote at the United Nations, I believe. And I think it has something to do with China, if I recall right? And so they caught him on tape saying these things about Africa. And also, we won't forget in the UK when they caught Queen Elizabeth cracking jokes and saying something about a gorilla and referring to African people and laughing, and that's not even the tip of the iceberg. Just what these people have the nerve to say in public. Can you imagine what it is that they are saying in private and behind closed doors, right? These people of European descent, I don't care how you try to give them the benefit of the doubt, they show their true colors all the time, right? African leaders and African people are always so willing to turn the other cheek and try to use diplomacy and try to be the bigger person. But you cannot be the bigger person when you're dealing with people who are as obnoxious and arrogant and power hungry as these people. And this is not just something that I am saying. This is something that they have proven themselves to be, right? Over and over and over again. It's written down in history. It's not he say, she say, nothing, right? These people have gone all over the face of the earth, right? Causing death and destruction and exploitation to people of other ethnic group and other of races, right? This is fact. And so, it really makes me mad, to constantly see African leaders, bowing down and acquiescing to these European nations because, they believe that they need their assistance, right? When are we going to be bold enough to say that enough is enough, right? I see that you know, a lot of African leaders have been standing up. They have been pushing back, but it's not enough, right? President Ruto of Kenya, about a couple weeks ago, you know, he talked about how African leaders need to stand together and how, you know, in order to negotiate their interests for the country. But then just the other day, I saw a video. He turned around and he was doing some kind of brokering some kind of deal with I think it was the UK and tariffs on exports and imports or something like that. But how are you going to broker these kind of deals when you just said that it's going to take the unification of African leaders in order to broker deals to benefit the whole African continent, or not at all, right? As long as we continue to broker these type of trade deals with these outside entities, right? And that's the Asian as well as the European. How are we going to broker these trade agreements between ourselves? How are we going to build up our industries, right? What about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement? What about that? What is happening to that? Our leaders need to be putting as much emphasis on that as they are continuing to put on these outside trade deals with these other countries. I mean, we've been trading with these people for millenniums, right? For centuries. And what has it gotten us? It has gotten us nothing, right? It has gotten us absolutely nothing. You know, the crumbs that they throw from their tables when we are the ones that have the most to offer. We are the ones that have what the world wants, right? But they are not willing to pay for it, like the great historian John Henry Clark says, right? He says Africa has always had everything that the world wants and needs, but are not willing to pay for it. And we just need to do a complete 360 overhaul, right? On everything that has prevented us from developing to the point that we want to develop, right? Because we cannot trust an open enemy. And it is that's just the fact of it. You know, like I said in the last video, I'm not trying to push racism or division, but that's just the way the world is. And you have to live in the real world, the reality of the way it is, not the way that you want it to be, right? Even in the scriptures that all black people just love to quote, right? It says, render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's and God's what is God. So that says right there that there is two worlds that we're living in, right? Although the spiritual world and the natural world is always connected, even in these scriptures, like I say, that other people love to quote, because I'm not a Bible quoting scripture type of girl, right? But even with that, it says point blank that you need to render under to Caesar's what is his and to God what is God. So that means you have to play ball in the real world, and you have to play it the way that it needs to be played. And I just don't understand. I mean, I do understand. I understand the situation. Really, I do. At its core. You know, I've been studying it long enough, right? I know I'm not involved in it, but I am a student of history, and I have been studying it, right? I've studied, you know, how we have gotten ourselves into the predicament that we are in. All of the events in history that has led us to this point, right? However, unless we continue to study, I mean, until our leaders really become students of history and learn from it so they can quit repeating the same old mistakes over and over again, then we will never get the Africa we want. right? And I don't like to say that because I am a positive person, right? And I am very positive when it comes to my people and what we are able to do and what we are able to accomplish. But we really have to look at the writing on the walls, and we have to understand what we are up against and who we are dealing with, right? I remember one other time I was watching this interview with President Rawlings of Ghana, and he was talking about this cultural practice in Ghana, right? And how it is used to deflate conflict, right? And to squash conflict. And he was saying how even in the homes, you know, if there is a quarrel, you know, if the quarrel has not been resolved by the nightfall, right, the parents would wake the children or the quarreling parties up early in the morning, right, and they would continue to talk about this issue until they resolved it, right? And I thought that was, you know, a good way of dealing with things, right? Basically, he said they would not allow the hard feelings or the conflict to fester, right? And also, I've seen that in other parts of Africa when it comes to conflict resolution. You know, we have the Ubuntu, right, in East Africa, right? You know, the human in me respects the human in you, right? I am because you are, you know, and these other very diplomatic and peaceful conflict resolutions, right? I remember even in, which I hate to talk about, but even in the conflict in Rwanda, right? The ethnic conflict between the Tutsis and the Hutus, right? All of these other outsiders who were trying to broker or, you know, bring these two ethnic groups together in a peaceful manner after the genocide failed, right? And they had to resort to one of their old cultural practices of forgiveness, right? And this is how they were able to reconcile with one another and eventually move past the genocide, right, and get to the point where they are today, right? That country had to hit rock bottom, right? And I don't talk about that lightly. My heart goes out to all of the people whose lives was lost in that conflict, right? But they were able to reconcile with one another through their own practices, their own cultural practices, not any practices, outside interference, right? And this is the thing that we really need to start to look at, right? We have solutions to our own problems, right? We can feed ourselves. We can clothe ourselves. We can develop our own countries. We don't need people to do that for us, right? We can be in charge of our own organizations. Again, how are you going to have an African Development Bank when one of the largest shareholders or in the bank is America? So that has nothing. So that means it's in Africa in name only? And you see this all across the continent. You see that even in African American organizations, right? Where you have other people on the outside controlling our organizations. That is not going to work. So like I said, we are just basically going to have to do a whole overhaul, and we really, really have to take in consideration, you know, what these Europeans think about us, what they have shown us that they think about us, right? And I'm not saying we have to hate them, right? Because that's just a waste of energy. It is not about hate or about love. It's about taking care of yourself and taking care of your citizens and doing what you need to do to progress. Now, you have tried all of this. It does not work. So now it's time for you to try something else, right? And if you continue to believe that, they are your partners, that they really care, that, they are doing all of this stuff just because out of the kindness of their heart, when they are the ones that cause most of the turmoil and the upheaval and the destruction and the underdevelopment in the first place, then, we just got a problem. And like the president of Barbados said the other day, she said, whatever we get, if we continue to move in the same way that we've been moving, whatever we get, then that's on us, right? Then we got it coming to us and we can't blame anybody else. And I believe that. And I stand with her on that. President Mia Motley, right? So, again, like I said, just, my message to African people, African leaders, we just going to have to try something different. This same old, you keep on doing the same old thing, you're going to keep on getting the same old results. So African citizens, you keep advocating on behalf of your people, on behalf of your ability and your skills to get things done, and continue to hold your governments accountable, or our governments accountable, for what they are doing, right? So again, this is Marie Ya Jouf, right? I didn't mean to go off in a rant or a tangent, but this is just something that's heavy on my heart. It's time. Time is just steady ticking, and we still doing the same old things over and over again. And we just have to stop it, and we have to quit, like I say, looking to these people for the answers to our issues. You cannot, it was an old saying that they used to say, the person that is something like destroyed your house is not going to give you the tools to rebuild it. And I think that says it all. So again, I am Marie Ya Jouf, the Real Africanist, and you can find me here on YouTube talking about African history, the field of African study, and how the African story is controlled in that field by Western narrative and Western scholarships and Western institutions, right? And also about current African affairs. I give my commentary on current African affairs, and I try to give you some historical perspective about things that are happening now based upon things that have happened in the past, right? So don't forget to like, share, leave a comment, and subscribe, right? Try to get those subscription numbers up. And I thank everybody for watching. I thank everybody for commenting and engaging with the channel. And remember to always go deeper when you are studying the African story. And also fight the power, right? And take care of yourself. Peace.